With brutality. Hello, everybody. I Cullums Asukor. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Extraordinary things. With critical focus on the Nigerian economy, we see the bigger picture.
Nigeria, India trade.
Business Express on Smooth 98.1.
Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. I am Ayo Mairo-Ese, 6:30, and time for today's edition of Business Express 981. Joining me, of course, is Rotus. Morning, Rotus. How are you today?
I am fine, Ayo. Good morning to you. Good morning to all our fantastic viewers and listeners out there.
Excellent. Now, to all our viewers and listeners, viewers on YouTube can go on to Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can use the chat box to send us your message, or you could, if you're listening to us and you do not have access to YouTube, then you can go onto our WhatsApp platform to share your comments. 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. Top conversation today, Rotus, is of course World Bank raising Nigeria's 2021 GDP focus.
Yes, yeah. But see, look, all these World Bank forecasts. You just need to remember that they are forecasts, and this is what we think is going to happen. So back in January, they forecast that Nigeria's GDP growth would be at 1.1%, which is nothing. They've now revised it by 0.7, what's that, 70 basis points. So they've revised the forecast now to 1.8% for 2021, saying that the economy will grow at that rate. Now, there's a number of factors. Anytime these people release forecasts, you have to ask the question, okay, what's behind your forecast? What are you basing your forecast on? One, they're assuming, I have to emphasize that they are assuming that oil prices will remain elevated. Crude oil is still above $70 a barrel as we speak. Summer is here in the United States. It's assuming that there will be more demand, more people will hopefully go out. Vaccinations in the US are, Biden has hit, in fact, has exceeded his target for vaccinations. So from the US, China, oil demand, India still has its COVID issues, but it's expected that, between those three countries, oil demand should rise. So, and OPEC as well, they're gradually easing their output curbs to support prices. Although, there's still the issue of Iran, and when Iran comes on stream, that one, we'll see how that works out. So one is oil prices. So the assumption is based on oil prices being elevated, because that's what Nigeria depends on for FX income. Two, they are also, this is the tricky one. They're also the forecast is also based on structural reforms to the oil and gas sector. And anytime you want to talk about reform in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, there's three letters that begins with a P. Bajagbe Amila, Speaker of the House, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, said that you guys know what the three letters is now, but begins with a P, the petroleum industry bill, right? So he said it was supposed to be passed back in April. He's now saying it to be passed this month of June. And so we're waiting on that in order to reform the oil sector and so on and so forth. So one, oil prices being elevated. Two, structural reforms in the oil and gas sector. Three, exchange rate management, which honestly, when they say exchange rate management, what does that mean? Managing the exchange rate. The only way you can have an easier time managing your exchange rate is when you have more foreign exchange. And the only way you foreign exchange is if you're selling stuff. There's a lamp the reason why I have light on my face is there's a lamp here that's facing me. This lamp was made here. Can Nigeria sell more lamps? Well, do we even manufacture lamps? I've got this funny little boombox stereo thing I use to play music whenever I'm doing stuff here. This was made in what's this made? Malaysia. I'm trying to think of what is it. We don't make this either. My Wi-Fi device that I'm using to Look, my brush, I don't want to show the brand, the bottled water, the pen, my cell phone. What else do I want to pick around here? This mug. These are examples of things that Nigeria has to sell in order to increase FX. My jacket, blazer, my shirt, these little bands I have around my wrists. We got to sell stuff. My laptop that I'm talking to you on right now, the computer that you're talking to me on, this is that. You have to sell things to more FX to be able to manage your exchange rate. Unfortunately, selling mostly, majority of it is oil, which is why every single oil prices dip, your FX income falls, and you fall into a recession, which is what happened in 2016 and what happened in 2020. So again, oil prices being elevated, reform in the oil and gas sector, petroleum industry, exchange rate management for vaccines. Instead of vaccine proliferation across Nigeria has to increase. Africa as a whole has been pretty slow. So those are the 4 pillars upon which the World Bank is basing on. And I mean, if you want to now break down those 4, I mean, what are the headwinds or what are the risks to oil prices remaining where they are now? Anything can happen in the future. Look, everybody's just focused on Iran. If the nuclear deal talks between the United States and Iran, if they work out, because Iran is facing sanctions now, if those sanctions are removed and Iran comes back to the market, well, that's an increased supply. And then other things might there could be another COVID outbreak somewhere. Something could happen. Petroleum industry bill, I don't know when that thing is going to be passed. They keep. The way Bajabi Amila just came out and said, "Oh, you know what? It didn't pass in April, but we're going to pass it in June." I don't know how much.
Yes, a number of people. I mean, this has been going on for how many years now? I think
20 years, over 20 years.
Yes, 20 years now, and unfortunately, I don't think trust levels have increased in the past 20 years based on precedents. So let's see. It's only a few more days till the end of this month, so we don't have too long to wait to see.
No. It's June. Today is June.
No, 6th. I mean, in terms of 20 years, compared to 20 years, only a few more days left for us to see just how well they will do good on this promise.
You cracked me up. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so Frank, who says it's in Germany based on Frank, we shouldn't be saying this, but Frank says that he's a bit optimistic about the figures. He's actually saying that he feels the GDP forecast is conservative. Analysts seem to be discounting the impact of the low base effect given the steep decline last year. He thinks we may touch 2%. That's what Frank thinks. And then, all right, okay, B from Emeka is responding to our status. All right, yeah. So, what do you think about that? Do you think we might touch 2%?
In 2013, 2014, Nigeria's GDP growth was about 6%. 6, right? So, I mean, look, World Bank said 1 point. Frank's message is duly noted. And thank you for that, Frank. 1.8%, that's their estimate of 2021. They're saying 2.1% in 2022. What is our population growth? We don't even know how many people we are, but estimated that we are growing at a rate of 2.6, 2.7%, approximately 3%. You have, again, using a household, right? If for those that are listening to us that have children, if you are popping out children every other year, and your salary is not growing in tandem with the number of kids you're popping out, and your household keeps increasing, that's going to weigh down on your ability to be able to finance the consumption of that household. So we as much as, again, come on, I mean, we're talking about 1.8%, 2.1, you need to be growing at, above population growth at the minimum in order for you to be able to get to where you need to be. Because if you're not, and your population is growing faster than GDP, then you've got more people falling into poverty. You look at per capita GDP, that is your GDP divided by the population, which is what, barely about $2,000, 2001, for is it 2.6? It has to be, you have to grow a lot further. So look, the restructuring debates that is going on in this country, I think our economic fortunes hinge upon the outcome of Nigeria's states being allowed to be more independent source for their own power, source for their own IGR, tax as they would like. If taxes are higher in Lagos than they are in Enugu, then move to Enugu. If they, so there's a lot that has to happen, right? We've got to have 36 independent states that do what it is that they want to do. The oil sector has to be liberalized. Again, the example I keep going back to above everything else is what Obasanjo did with telcos. Also, pensions. Obasanjo also reformed the pension sector, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of telcos, before we run out of time,
yeah, I had some more comments before we move on to
okay,
the
go ahead.
responding. Yeah. So Otunuga from Aja says, other things we can sell to earn foreign exchange are agricultural products. Did you see the news about the Senate making it a core subject in schools, agricultural science? He says, but since Fulani herders are waging land acquisition wars all over the country, we might even have to import food rather than export agricultural products, thus compounding the problems. It's a pity. We're going to be looking at a headline later on Rotus about a threat. There's a threat of strikes by farmers, and so again talking about food security in the nation already, that's already a challenge. So very well said, Otunuga. Then Benga Kamu says the potential of this economy is so great. If the right policies are in place, we can do 10% growth rate conveniently. But then
that'll be sweet. Let's give us power.
Yeah. It says, can you give an indication of where the largest population spikes in the country are?
Well, I think what's our birth rates? In northern states, it's 5.1 for each woman or so. So I think it's in the, we're not really focusing much on child planning. So I think in some states, that's where we're seeing the highest rates, for each of those states. So I think that's where those spikes are coming from.
Yeah.
For what's so we're talking about telcos, right?
Yes, telcos.
The NCC has brought out new data showing that we've lost about 19 million subscribers since between December and April. I think we're at 207.9 million subscribers as of December 2020. It's dropped to 188 in April of this year as a result of the NIN policy, where they halted registration of SIMs in order for the national identity number. So we've seen there's been a fallout from that. Telcos have suffered a bit. We saw GDP growth for the ICT sector slow down due to the slowdown in telecommunications. So this is just a lesson with respect to managing these policies properly and not scoring an own goal and hurting yourself. Process. I think even broadband penetration dropped 45.07% to 40.6%. So, it could have been handled much better, the whole NIN SIM registration exercise.
So I have a question to ask you, Rotus. We have only about a little over a minute. Now, we hear reports of these numbers dropping, and one would assume that one of the things that would happen is that it would give the telcos an opportunity to put their houses in order and give better service. So some of the challenges that it's been said or has been said is that they bite more than they can chew. So they have more people on their servers or on their network on their network than they can manage. But this hasn't been the case. So what do we need to do to get better service? I'm saying this from a very pained heart because yesterday I had a number of meetings virtually on Zoom, and internet connection was zero or next to zero. So I kept logging in, logging out. What's the challenge really? Yeah,
so we need more we need more towers, right? And the thing is, it is very expensive to run these towers. These telcos are like any other business in this country. It's power, right? They have to. They are very expensive. Some of them don't even own them. They lease. I think this is the company that does the leasing. So in order for you to get better service, you need more towers. To get more towers, you need more money. To run those towers, you need power cost generators. So that's what it is. You solve power, you solve a lot of Nigeria's problems. So that's how. So it's down to that's how the telco situation will improve.
So in terms of I have no solution, just get ready for more because this has a cost implication on businesses.
Of course it does. Of course.
Let's wrap up with these comments. Inka says 36 independent states. Rotus, in your church mind, can the government of Niger State, for example, be independent? Some states are pledged. at the end of the day. All right, then. Okay. Yinka gave us the name of the company. You asked for, was it towers you're looking for? Did you ask for the name?
Yeah, the tower. Yeah. I think it's IHS or so. Yeah.
You said Helios. It's Helios Tower.
Helios, that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Helios,
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thanks, Yinka. Then Patty from Ikota says, hi, Rotus. You should take up lecturing. You always know how to chunk down facts. I learned a lot just these few minutes. Well done, guys. Well done.
Humble. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're out of time. As always, great conversation and great learning experience, good discussion. We hope that by the next time we speak, our power problems will be solved. And I hope
Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you so much, Rotus. Have a beautiful day. All right, from Lagos and beyond, from wherever you're listening to us from, thank you very much for tuning in to today's edition of Business Express 981. We do this every weekday, Monday to Friday, from 6:30 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. This is part of the business shows that we have on offer here on Smooth 98.1. In a moment, we'll bring you, well, not quite a moment, because we have a music break until 7:30. 7:30, we bring you today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981. Some headlines coming your way. If you want to read ahead, you can go onto our WhatsApp status to see the headline stories, and also on our Insta story as well at Smooth 981. I'm Ayo Mairo-Ese. Stay tuned.
Focus on the Nigerian economy. We see the bigger picture.
I thank you everyone for tuning in. See you at 7:30.